All right. Day 15. C1x development. Last stream we got sidetracked. Pretty badly, necessarily, but was intending to knock out a lot of these individual stat calculations in the last stream, and then realized that the way that I was scorekeeping initially didn't really help to facilitate that. So we ended up redoing how all of the scoring is done and the logic in updating which shot options are shown, how round scores are calculated, etc. But we got all that working. So now we're back to the stat calculations, back to what I set out to do yesterday. All right, so I never actually finished this one, which is ironic. I said I finished it last stream, and clearly I didn't. We got par 2 and 3 done. We did not do everything else. So else, if let me remind myself how we're doing the score here. Scorecard. So when I update the round score, putt distance options contains it, then it doesn't count. But we shouldn't have one of those options unless they land inside the circle. Which is correct. So on a par 4, it would have to go fairway and then C1 within that distance. It would have to be within the first 3 items. They could go penalty, C1, and that distance. They would still be parked for birdie. If they go penalty, fairway, so they take a penalty stroke, they're throwing from the fairway, and then they throw in circle 1, that park distance would be the 4th item in the shot array, not the 3rd. This makes sense in my head when I say it out loud. So ultimately, I think that I can do something like if shot sequence .3 I'm trying to remember how to do let me refresh my memory here. To give the range within an array, i.e. first 3 items of array dart. Sublist. Dot sublist 0, 3. No, 0, 2. And that'll count the first 3. So it'll go 0, 1, 2. If in that sublist C1 putt parked exists, then they were parked for birdie within this hole. We also always have to factor in throw-ins. Or shot sequence (0, 2) contains Does it contains throw-in? Is that accomplishing what I want it to here? So if they, I think in order to be parked, it needs to be one of the first 2 shots. So on a par 4, they have to throw their second shot inside the bullseye. But if they throw in the second shot, i.e. get an eagle on the par 4, I need to call that parked as well. So that's going to be one of the first 2 shots. If they do it on the third, they're getting a birdie, but they definitely weren't parked for birdie. I.e. it's a par 4, let's say they throw in the fairway, they throw into like deep circle 3, and they've got to putt from, or throw, I guess, from deep circle 3 for the birdie, and they throw that in. That's a birdie, but obviously not parked for birdie. So one of the first 2 shots has to be thrown for this to count. Return true. And then else if par is equal to 5. I think this is still accurate. So really this should be, this is always going to be par minus 2. That's going to give me errors though, isn't it? Reason I'm saying that is, let's say it's a par 4. On the shot sequence, I'm saying that I'm going to have to include an assumption in here that the shot sequence is always at least close to the length of the par. Like if the user, whether or not it's true, if they log an ace on a par 5, shot sequence is only going to have 1 value in it. It's going to be thrown. And if I try to say that the sublist from 0 to 3, and then I pass an array to it that only has 1 value, there is no 0 to 3, it's just 0. So I need to account for that. I need to account for that. Par minus 3. So this is going to hold true for par 5s and par 6s. But I do need a else if par minus 2. So if shot sequence dot length is less than par minus 2. So on a par 4, this is going to run from 0 to 2, which means there need to be 3 elements. Par minus 2 here would be 2. So that's not quite right. If the length is less than 1, 0, 1, 2. Shot sequence. If shot sequence, so if the length is less than, so let's say it's a par 4, that would mean that the length of it is less than 3. If it's more than 3, if it's equal to or greater than 3, then this line of code won't give me any errors, because the most I'm accounting for is 3 elements in that list. For a par 4, it goes up 1 for a par 5 and a par 6, but if it's not, so if the length is less than 3, the only way that happens is if they have to be parked, right? Like, is there any way for the app to log less than 3 shots without them being parked? No. Return true. If, and I have to account for it here too, which is annoying, but I think it's probably something that I need to do. because I do want it all to be contained within this function. Shot sequence dot length is less than 2. Return true. Else return true. So if it's less than 1, return true. Else return true. And if it runs through all those, then it's false. All right, so now parked is done. And I'm probably going to need some similar logic in all of these when I'm looking at that shot sequence variable. But it's whatever. All right, so parked is done. That one's now actually done. Now we're on to C1 in regulation. So a lot of this is going to be very, very similar. Let's copy paste this. All right, circle 1 in regulation. If shot sequence is less than 2, the only way that happens if it's a throw-in, return true. Okay. If shot sequence 1 is equal to parked, no. So for circle 1 in regulation on a par 2 or par 3, your first shot has to land inside of circle 1. Equal to C1, then we return true. If it's not a par 2 or 3, if (0 to 2) contains putt parked, so this is actually going to be 0 to 1. Because that means within the second shot, they have to be inside of circle 1. So 0 to par minus 3, so that we're holding it true for a par 5 as well, contains all labels C1 or C1 in regulation for a throw-in. It's the same thing. Contains throw-in. It's got to be one of the first 2 shots. If they throw in on the third shot, they weren't in circle 1 in regulation. Because on a par 4, being in circle 1 in regulation means that you're in circle 1 after your 2 shots. And this 0 to par minus 3 is always going to run over the first 2 shots in the sequence. So if within the first 2 shots, you either have circle 1 or throw-in, only options, then it's true. Else we return false. Okay? So I think that's good. Now let's copy this, modify it for circle 2 in regulation. And just as a recap, we already have the all stats view in the app, which is this. All of these are already calculating from our single round or all round calculations, excuse me. So I've got calculate stats holder, which is the variable I'm using to display all of these stats. As a part of this stats holder, I'm going through each round that's being passed to it. And in each round, I'm running this single round calculations, which is this file. This is calculate all the stats for a single round. And within each of these, I'm calling these individual stat calculations. It has been a handful of streams since I put those in, so the goal is going to be to get these functions up and running, and then we'll do some testing and make sure that the stats are actually calculating properly. All right. If, yes, that's still the same thing. Length is less than 2, we're returning true. If it would be nice to kind of do both of these, because obviously if you're in circle 1 in regulation, you're in circle 2 in regulation. If you're parked, then you're in circle 1 in regulation and you're in circle 2 in regulation. But I'm not going to do that for the moment. Keep everything separate right now. Give me my scoring options file here. Putting locations. This is probably good. All right, so if, instead of this, it's going to be if all labels.putting locations contains shot sequence 0. So if the first shot is in circle 1 or circle 2, then we return true, which is good. It could be a throw-in. It has to be in circle 1 or circle 2. That's it. Nothing else to account for there. If it's not, so same thing here. That's going to be true. Else contains circle 1. So here I just need to add another or statement. Shot sequence 0 to 3 contains C2, or it's a throw-in. Yeah. All right. I think that's it. I think circle 2 in regulation is good. All right. C1x putting. Okay, so for var shot equals 0, shot is less than shot sequence dot length, shot plus plus. I think there's a simple way to write for loops, but we're not doing that. If shot sequence shot is equal to all labels C1, then, so when I'm keeping score right now, I'm saying, all right, we landed in C1. I'm selecting the distance of the putt. And then we're selecting where it landed. So if it equals C1, we're adding an attempt. That's easy enough. No, don't do that. Stop. I need the actual just tab. R. Shot spacer equals 0. Shot spacer plus plus. For each shot. So we're going to hit circle 1. The next one's going to be a distance. The next one's going to be, excuse me, either basket or something else. So I just need to check if, and the reason I can't just say if shot sequence shot is equal to all labels dot basket is that it may not have been made from circle 1. Like you could go all labels C1, you airball it, you land in C2, and then you land in the basket. I can't count that as a C1x make. And important to note that this is C1x putting, so static final C1x put options. So I need to revise that. Put medium, C1 put long. We can't count parked in that. It's not a C1x put. I have a separate just C1 putting stat where this will work. But if all labels dot C1 put options contains shot sequence, this will actually make it easier. C1x put options. C1x attempt shot spacer equals 0. Equal to 1 maybe. Else if all labels putt options contains. No. Basket is equal to shot sequence shot. And shot spacer is equal to 0 or equal to 1, then C1x makes plus plus. So here what I'm saying is if C1x putt options contain shot sequence, else shot spacer equals 0. All right, so we're going to go through the shot. First shot lands in the fairway. So this is false, this is false. Shot spacer is equal to 0. The next shot goes into circle 1. None of these are going to be true. Shot spacer is equal to 0. After going in circle 1, you select the distance that you're putting from. So let's say it's 11 to 22 feet. Then this is going to be true. Attempts is going to go up 1, shot spacer is equal to 1. Then we go to the next shot. Let's say the next one's the basket. Let's say the next one's the fairway. If the next one's the fairway, this is false. This is false. Shot spacer is back to 0. And let's say you go circle 2, basket. These are always going to be false. Correct. Okay. But if the last shot was a C1x putt, then we can, this will be 1. This will end up evaluating to true, and makes will add on. Okay. A little long-winded, but that's correct. All right, now we should need something similar here. All right. If all labels C1 putt options contains C1 putt options, yes, contains shot sequence shot, C1 attempts. So I think this is the same logic, just different putting options. And then I should be able to just copy and paste this over to circle 2 putting. Do I have C2 putt options? I do. Okay, perfect. C2 putt options, C2 attempts, C2 makes. Okay. Easy enough. All right, now we're on to scrambles. And this one I'm going to verify the definition of first to make sure that I have a good understanding before I try to code it. All right, so we're going to go through UDiscs thing again here. Off target drive, avoid carding a bogey. So scramble, throwing or B or off the fairway and still saving par or better. If a player lands OB inside of circle 1, they are eligible for a scramble. Number of holes with par or better, where a player was off the fairway or OB at any time. So the at any time is important. And this actually makes it easier on me. Because there's just, if they take a penalty at any point on the hole. There's no like, if they took a penalty but they're throwing from circle 1. It's just if, and I'm tracking rough. So for a scramble, if they throw in the rough or take a penalty at any time. So if either of these two happen at any point in the shot sequence and the score is par or better. All right, so for each shot, Let's just keep making variables for these, because I think this is, if I ever do need to adjust these will make it so easy. Scramble options. Rough penalty. It makes this look a little bit nicer too. If all labels dot scramble options contains shot sequence shot, scramble attempt plus, good. All right, and then I'm passing par and user score. Let's just do equal to 1. Because I don't want to add it or increment it. There's this one I can't increment. You can have multiple circle 2 or circle 1 putts. You only get one chance to scramble on a hole. So just equal to 1. And then we'll go down here. If scramble attempt is equal to 1 and user score minus par is less than or equal to 0. Yeah, so if the user scores par or better, they score 2 or 3 on a par 3, that's going to evaluate either to -1 or 0. That statement will be true. So if they scored par or better and we've already registered that it was a scramble attempt, then scramble successful is equal to 1. Okay. Scrambles is done. OB strokes should be fairly simple. This should just be tracking penalties. If shot sequence shot is equal to all labels penalty. Regardless, OB strokes at it. I think that one's done. OB on the hole. This one we can just say for our shot equals 0. Return true. Return false. Shot sequence. Yeah, so this one I'm just returning true if they go OB at any point on the hole. We'll return true, otherwise we'll return false. Okay, done. If user score is equal to 1, ace is true. That's easy. Now we're on to the easy ones. Man, I should have started with these. If it's on a par 4, user score has to be 2. Is less than or equal to par minus 2. Equal is equal to true. This is, we're gonna just make these simpler. Return true, return false. Return true, return false. On a par 3, they'd have to score a 1, so 1 is less than or equal to 1. Par 5, they'd have to score 3 or better. So 3, 2, or 1 is always going to be less than or equal to 3. Yeah, so these are correct. And then we're just going to copy these. User score par minus 1. Even par is going to be equal to par. No way around that one. Bogey. Now see, now these are interesting. Now I've got to remember how I want to display this. So frequency is what I'm looking for. That's what I'm returning here. If I want to do an under par or over par, I can do that separately. But these, it's not less than or equal to 2, it's equal to. I don't want equal to count as a birdie here. So these should all be equal to. equal to par equal to par plus 1 for bogey. Equal to par plus 2 for double bogey. All right, C1 makes streak. So we've got previous streak is equal to previous streak. On my single round, if current is greater than final, final is equal to it. Okay, I had the right idea there. So here I just need to return what the current streak is. That's what I wanted to verify there. So we are going to run through every shot. If bar is attempt live equals false. All right, if C1 putt options C1 putt options contains the shot, then is attempt live equal to true. I think this is perfect, actually. Else if, ooh, did I need to make this a false up here now that it's bringing this up? So I think up here I need to make the shot spacer equal to 0 right here. If it's in the basket and the shot spacer is equal to 1, then C1x makes goes up and shot spacer is equal to 0. I do. AI's coming in handy there. I think that was only for these putts. All right, so now I go back down to C1 make streak. And I think it hit the nail on the head here. So if we're putting from circle 1, attempt live is true. If the next shot's in the basket and the attempt live is true, make streak plus plus. Ooh, ooh, ooh. I need to reset the streak too. Else if C1 make streak is equal to 0. Otherwise it'll be equal to false. I think so. I don't think I need this else statement, but I'm going to throw it in just in case. C1 make streak is equal to 0, and then we're going to return it. C1 putt options. So that's going to be the distance on the very next shot. And attempt live. Okay, I think that's correct. Then we're on to circle 2 bonus. So here, previous bonus. This I should probably just be calculating here, actually. Why am I not calculating bogey free streak there? I guess that makes sense here. circle 2 bonus is equal to current circle 2 bonus. Current C2 bonus. Because this one I'm just going to be taking a lot of the C1 putting stats here, if that makes sense. So on our single round calculations, total C1x putting. All right, we're going to create it separately for the moment. So here I need to track misses. This returns, this will return C1 misses. Our C1 misses is equal to C1 attempts minus C1 makes. Then we need circle 2 putts. Circle 2 putting. Here I just need to track makes. I can probably do a lot of these together. For each shot, if, else if. That shot spacer is going to screw me over. All right, so here we've got C1 shot spacer, var C2 shot spacer. All right, so these are going to be C1. These will be C2. Get rid of that. I don't really need to track attempts here. C2 makes. We're not tracking attempts. Else if. So these are all going to need to go here. All right, so if C1 putt options contains it, we're doing all of this. This is our check for C1 makes. Else C2 putt options contains it. Else if basket and C2 shot spacer. Okay. C1 misses is equal to this, and then we're going to return C2 makes previous bonus plus C2 makes minus C1 misses. Okay. That's it. So combine the putting stats here for tracking C1 misses and C2 makes, which we're already doing up above, and then C2 bonus is a stat that Sexton came up with, for those that aren't familiar. I think he came up with it on Jomez. It's just the difference between how many circle 2 putts you made and how many circle 1 putts you missed. See how well your circle 2 putting is accounting for your poor circle 1 putting. That's it for the individual stats file. We still have a few more down here. Bounce back. Bogey last hole. See, now I'm not going to quite be able to do that. Only if birdie is true. Birdie, that's not true. These aren't going to work. I can't nest these like I had here because that's not how I'm displaying them. It's not necessarily that if birdie is true, eagle is true. That's not how the birdie function is going to calculate. And same thing with this. Okay. Do you still need the bounce back though? So bogey last hole. Bogey last hole equal to true. Bogey last hole is equal to true. And then after that runs, I should be able to set it equal to no, that's not going to work, is it? I don't want to do a spacer variable in the single round calculations, but I might need to. So I'm going to check a hole. We're going to see if they bogeyed it. Let's go bogeyed this hole. False. Bogeyed this hole is equal to true. All right, and then after all of these are calculated, we're going to say bogey last hole is equal to bogey this hole. Bogey this hole is equal to false. How am I displaying bounce backs right now? 0 out of 0. Successes and attempts. Yeah, this probably works. So bogey last hole would then be true for the next iteration. Next iteration in this for loop. And bogey last hole would then be what gets passed here. Yeah, this is good. Okay. I think that works. So now I think I'm actually updating this as needed. So if bogey last hole is true, if you bogey the last hole, if user score is less than par, so if they bogey the last hole, then we're going to return 1, 1. If they do bogey the last hole and the user score is not less than par, we're going to return 0 makes for 1. Yeah, that's it. It's either a bounce back or it's not. Okay, so bounce back is good. make attempt, make attempt. And then this one we'll just return 0, 0. Okay. Birdie streak. All right, this will be easy. So if user score is less than par, return previous streak plus 1. If it's not, return 0. This should be just as easy. If user score is less than or equal to par, return previous streak plus 1, else return 0. Yeah, so if they score less than par, it's a birdie streak. They score less than or equal to par, extending the bogey-free streak. And I think that's it. And that's our single round calculations. Let's go give this a try. Let me go look at the round information here. User hole scores. So lots of just random scores on this. Let's see what it gives us. All rounds. Oh, no, it's not the... Not what I thought I clicked on there. No stats on this one. Stats. Did I get any errors here? Nothing outside of... Yes. Oh, well, most of these shouldn't be calculating because I didn't actually have... Yeah, this was my shot data for them. So there's not... There's nothing for it to calculate based off of. Okay. Trying to think how I want to approach this. I can just enter in a test round and fill it. I can obviously score a round, but it's still going to factor in this data. Let's do this. First round. Whole score should match. Fairway. C1. Zero to 11 feet. Basket. That would be a par. This is going to be excessive. I don't really want to do this. Like, I'd rather just score it in the app than just make this stuff up. Here's what I think I probably can do. All round calculations. No, all rounds. Here we go. Search. No, I'm still not looking at the same thing here. At the right file, I should say. Possible round counts. So I'm going to just, for the time being, insert 1 here. 1 round. 1 round. 1. Now I think, because I set it up this way, I shouldn't have to do anything else and I can just look at the last round. I think. I also could have just probably done this in the individual round view. I would have had to create the view though. All right, so we're gonna stop it and restart it because we need to reload the new rounds file. We'll just start 1 round. So let's go down to main. Let's hit run. And then we will still need to show all of those stats on the single round view when we're popping up the scorecard. Yeah. All right, we'll give this a try though first. All right, so now if we go to stats, ooh, how was I? Okay, yeah, so the messages are not going to quite be right as I'm trying to show the 1 round. I'm just going to leave it for this. It does look like it's only scoring the 1 round, so what I want to do now is confirm delete, and then we're going to score a new round on the easy course fairway, circle 1. So there's a parked, or not parked, excuse me, but a circle 1 putt. Here's a birdie and a C1x putt. Here's a circle 2 putt. Here's a circle 1 C1x miss. Basket. Penalty. C2. And then we make the circle 2 putt, so that should be a scramble. And then let's do a throw-in. All right, we go back to the main menu. Now if I go to stats, okay, so this is still doing it for both rounds and not 1. Calculate stats holder round IDs. Time frame is equal to possible time frame 0. Oh, so I was still. Yeah. Okay, we're going to undo this just because I'm afraid that if I try to tweak it anymore just for this one testing purpose, I'm going to end up messing it up more than I want to. So we're not going to do that. We'll leave these as is. Let's save that. And then what I'm instead going to do, I need to get rid of some of these. Let's close them out. All right, let's go to all stats. I'm going to want this calculate stats holder. Well, no, I don't want the calculate stats holder. I want this single round stats. But on all stats, I've got a display. Stats holder. That's how I'm determining it. Okay. Single round calculations returns this. All round calculations returns a string. All right, I see the issue here. Can I just use this though? Was that the idea here? I think I can. I think I can just use this calculate stats holder. That was my intent. I don't need to change up the functions I'm using based on whether it's one round or a number of rounds. So if we go to our round view, round display, basically I need this to have a lot of similar structure compared to this one. Round course difficulties. And this is inside of the override. Okay, so on here, we're going to go var stats holder is equal to calculate, no, not calculate percentage, calculate stats holder. All right, mode percentage is fine. Percentage is fine. It's not going to work. The variables that I'm passing are not even going to be the right dimension. They're all going to be one dimension too many. So I'm actually going to need to all round calculations. Single round calculations is going to need to have its own variable in them, which it could just be in the round display. I'm going to need a function like this that is for a single round. I'm going to throw it in the round display view. I want it to be in a new file. Individual single round calculations. Let's just call it for right now round display calculations. .dart. Let's copy this. All round calculations. Give me the imports. Okay. Calculate stats holder. So this is fine. Do I reuse time frame? Calculate round display stat holder. I don't. I never once used that time frame. Okay. Noted. I don't think I need round IDs here either. Because there is no index, I'm going to already have all of this information, right, as part of the round display here. Round, I already have round index. Yeah. If I'm already pulling the index, I don't need these. So we're going to get rid of these. I'm not using mode right now either. Let's just get rid of that. We're going to get rid of one of these. Do the same thing here. Same thing here. This is just a double. Course difficulty. This is just a string user score, and then we get rid of another element of this shot data set. Perfect. All right, so now all of this we're getting rid of, and I just want this. Hold on, sorry. Right here. Because we're not iterating for each round. I don't need to calculate the index because we already have it, because the round was selected. Okay. Stats holder, fairway hits all rounds. Yeah, I don't need that. All right, single round calculations. This is not a round parse index. This is just round parse. I got rid of the index. No index. User hole scores, no index. Course difficulty. No index, user score, and shot data set, singular. There is none of this. Totals is just equal to a single round. Well, we know that's going to happen. If it's not, oh, okay, so I can get rid of basically all of this because it is the first round. The single round calculations is going to return the right value. So I think I actually just delete all of this. We delete this. And then I think I just use this variable. This is oddly satisfying to do. To just copy and paste all these errors out. Just kind of jumping around here. It's still going. Oh. Definitely could have just Command F and find replaced all these, but would not have been as much fun as copying and pasting all of these individually. Perfect. Calculate round display stat holder, done. So now on this, stats holder is equal to calculate round display stats holder. Instead of all round calculations under stat keeping, this needs to be round display calculations. That gets rid of, I thought it should have, stat holder. All right, so we got rid of, well, let's just do this actually. Perfect. All right. So here we calculated round index. So now this is going to be round parse, round index, round distances, round index, user hole scores, round index. so. Stats holder, just like that. Yeah, yep. This is already in a list, right? Yep. So then we go to all stats. And I need my for loop down here. So we just copy and paste this into round display. We've got course. For each hole, we're showing all of this information. I don't need a delete round there. Just that. Let's get our nice brackets in, like we've been doing elsewhere in the app. And so now if I just probably do a reset here. This is stats holder. Let's just see what that does if we go to the easy round then. Trying to take all of the stats that we're displaying on this view and then add them to the round display view. But I just reset it, so we lost it. Dang it. All right, let's do this again. Park the first hole. And then we par the second one with a nice C1x putt. We're going to hit a circle 2 putt. We're going to miss a C1x putt. We're going to go into the penalty from circle 1. And that should be a scramble, and then we'll throw in. I think that was similar to what I did last time. And now if we tap on it, there is quite the space underneath this. But we have all of our stats. Those are all fine. All right. Let's go through. This will give me a good idea of, was I still printing out the shot data? That would be nice to compare. I was. All right. So C1x putting is not working. C2 putting scrambles. OB penalty rate works. Ace works. Eagle works. I do want aces and eagles to count. You can technically have both. Birdies, pars, bogey or worse. Double bogey works. C1 make streak, birdie streak. C2 bonus is 0, which I do think is right because I think we made one circle 2 putt and we missed one circle 1 putt. So it looks like the only stats that aren't working are these right here. So we were pretty close there. For not testing any of them, I think all of the stats except these ones we haven't implemented yet, obviously. But all of the stats work except for these 5. Could be worse. That is a very large space. Let me look at this real quick. Space evenly, hole round pars, round distances. Padding 1. This box height 30. I don't know, we'll have to look at that one. But not too bad. All right, I think we're gonna call it there. We at least got most of the individual stats done. We've got a little troubleshooting to do on a few of them. We've got all the stats added to the round information view. They're gonna change. This view and the all stats view will not end up looking the same, but at least to get all the information in there right now so I can verify that the calculations work properly. But yeah, pretty good progress. Let's Go see where we're at real quick here. Shrink this down a little bit. All right. So we're in the process of doing this. Once we have that on every hole, I can start to implement in this the driving statistic, putting statistic, adding some graphics for those to actually display on the views. I don't know if I'm ready to do graphics yet. Definitely coming at some point. I don't know if that's what I'm going to focus on right now. We'll see. Man, we're pretty close at that point. Kind of nearing the point where it's just a whole bunch of settings, support. Adding courses is going to be a big one. That won't take long, but definitely something we need to get into the app. Not adding graphics just because I am, I think, secretly kind of excited to get the app to a point where it's highly functional and also looks terrible. Just because I think it'll be very satisfying to go make everything start to look nice and clean it up. And I might want to save adding the graphics, like adding a fairway hit graphic underneath the holes where you hit a fairway, and similar to what a UDisc Live or a PDJ Live would have. I know I said it in an earlier stream, but the main goal is to get this app to a point by launch where it does everything that UDisc Live or PDJ Live would do, and then a little bit extra. And that's going to be our baseline. And then we're going to start to work in more detailed inputs for people that want more information about their game, and new graphics for visualizing stats. And I've got quite a few ideas. I've got a whole other section down here called To Add Later. And this is just a whole bunch of stuff that will hopefully take C1x to the next level. But yeah, we'll call it there for today. Next time we'll start with getting a few of those stats fixed. The nice thing is that I did tie these calculations on the round display view and the calculations for all rounds into the same function. So there's only one function that's calculating each stat. I only have to fix it once and we're done. So I'll do that. We'll probably get a little bit more information added to this. I don't know if I'm going to add the nice graphics yet, but I might add just some letters or something to at least get the layout done. Then we can add the graphics. So yeah, we'll do both of those, and then we'll keep plugging through these other items. But that'll wrap it up for this one. As always, thanks to anybody who finds this after the fact. Sending out my first newsletter for C1x, I think tomorrow. We've got, I think, 10 or 12 beta testers currently. Still looking for more. You can sign up at the C1x website for that newsletter. What else? I think that's about all I got. Is there anything you want to see? Leave a comment down below. Reach out on the C1x Instagram account. I'm racing to get this I'll call it a MVP, a minimum viable product, done as soon as possible, because I want to start using it in advertisements for the Pro Tour tournaments. I've got a graphic set up and everything. At some point during one of those streams, I'll pull that up and go through it. What I'm going to use, but we got to finish the app first. So long sign off here. We'll call it. See you guys in the next one.